two bowling teams, one made up of all blondes and one of all brunettes. Charter a double-decker bus for a weekend tournament in Atlantic City. The brunette team rides in the bottom of the bus, and the blonde team rides on the top level. The brunette team down below is whooping it up and having a great time when one of them realizes she doesn't hear anything from the blondes upstairs. She decides to go up and investigate. When the brunette reaches the top, she finds all the blondes frozen in fear, staring straight ahead at the road and clutching the seats in front of them. The brunette says, "What is going on up here? We're having a great time downstairs." One of the blondes says, "Yeah, but you've got a driver." Once there was a women's bowling team. Everyone on the bowling team was so-so at bowling, with the exception of two women. One of the two women was named Martha. Martha was absolutely abysmal at bowling. Every single game, she got at least 9 gutter balls. The other woman was Linda, and she was the best player who had ever set foot in the bowling alley. Every time the team won a bowling match, Linda was responsible for scoring most of the points because she was so good at bowling and because she was such a nice lady. Linda was very popular among her teammates, but there was just one thing about her. At the end of every single game, Linda said, "Next game. I might be 5 minutes late." Her teammates found it really annoying. She almost always showed up right on time, but still, she always said, "Next game. I might be 5 minutes late." The one who was most annoyed by this was Martha. One day, right after her bowling her 6th gutter ball of the day, she decided that she wanted to find out why Linda always said that. She went up to Linda just as she had bowled her 8th strike of the day, when she noticed something that made her forget about the 5 minutes late thing. "Linda," she said, "are you bowling left-handed today?" "That I am." "I could have sworn you bowled right-handed at our last game." "That I did." For the rest of the game, and for each game over the next few weeks, all that Martha and her teammates could talk about was the hand Linda was using to bowl. "She's bowling righty today. I remembered she bowled lefty at her first game. Could she be alternating hands?" "No. I remember last month she bowled 3 games righty in a row." Finally, Martha decided to ask Linda how she decided which hand to bowl with. "Simple," replied Linda. "I used to be just as bad at bowling as you were. Then I started dating a guy who always slept in the nude and on his back. Now every morning, when I wake up, I look at my boyfriend. If his penis is hanging over his left leg, I bowl lefty. If it's hanging over his right leg, I bowl righty." This may sound strange, but ever since I started this method, I've become better at bowling than I've ever been. Martha realized that her boyfriend always slept naked on his back, so she decided that she should try this method too. Whenever she woke up and saw her boyfriend's penis hanging over his left leg, she bowled lefty. Whenever she woke up and saw her boyfriend's penis hanging over his right leg, she bowled righty. This method worked surprisingly well. Martha, with her new hand-switching method, now got as many strikes as she had once gotten gutter balls. The team entered a national tournament, and Linda and Martha single-handedly got them to the finals. On the morning of the finals, Martha woke up and looked at her boyfriend to see which leg his penis was hanging over. But he had an erection. Now she had no way of knowing which hand to bowl with. When Martha arrived at the bowling alley, she once again asked Linda for help. "What do you do when your boyfriend has an erection?" he asked. With a sly grin on her face, Linda responded, "Why do you think I always say, 'Next game, I might be 5 minutes late'?" A couple is reading in their living room after dinner, and the husband announces that he had a rough day at work and is going to skip going to his bowling league that night. The wife nods and goes back to reading her magazine, but keeps glancing at the living room clock. About 20 minutes later, the kitchen phone rings. The wife starts to get up to answer it, but the husband tells her he's closer, so he walks into the kitchen and answers the phone. "What, I don't know, buddy. Call the damn Coast Guard," and he slams the phone down. He goes to the living room and resumes reading the newspaper. His wife looks over at him nervously and asks what the call was about, and the husband replies, "Pfft, some moron calling to ask if the coast is clear." A wife decides to take her husband, Dave, to a strip club for his birthday. They arrive at the club, and the doorman says, "Hey, Dave, how you doing?" His wife is puzzled and asks if he's been to this club before. "Oh no," says Dave. "He's on my bowling team." When they are seated, a waitress asks Dave if he'd like his usual and brings over a Budweiser. His wife is becoming increasingly uncomfortable and says, "How did she know that you drink Budweiser? She's in the ladies' bowling league." "Honey, we share lanes with them." A stripper then comes over to their table, throws her arms around Dave, and says, "Hi, Davey. Want your usual table dance?" Big Boy, Dave's wife, now furious, grabs her purse and storms out of the club. Dave follows and spots her getting into a cab. Before she can slam the door, he jumps in beside her. He tries desperately to explain how the stripper must have mistaken him for someone else, but his wife is having none of it. She is screaming at him at the top of her lungs, calling him every name in the book. The cabbie turns his head and says, "Looks like you picked up a real bitch tonight, Dave." A wife takes her husband to a strip club for their 20th anniversary at the entrance. The guard says to the husband, "Hey, Simon, how's it going?" The woman asks her husband how he knows you. The husband answers from the gym. They enter and sit at the bar, and the bartender asks, "Hey, Simon, the usual." The husband turns to his wife, tensely saying, "We play bowling together. Ya boyers." A stripper approaches the husband and asks, "Do you feel like getting the same as last time?" His wife grabs Simon and they run out and get into a taxi. The driver looks at them and says, "Simon, you picked a real dog this time." P. Simon. I swear to God, I did not go out bowling. A man tells his wife that he's going out to buy cigarettes. When he gets to the store, he finds out it's closed. So the guy ends up going to the bar to use the vending machine. While there, he has a few beers and begins talking to this beautiful girl. He has a few more beer, and the next thing he knows, he's in this girl's apartment and having quite a pleasurable time. And it was 3:00 a.m. "Oh my God, my wife is going to kill me," he exclaimed. "Quick, give me some talcum powder." She gets him some, and he rubs it all over his hands. When he got home, his wife is up waiting for him and she's furious. "Where the hell have you been?" He says, "Well, to tell you the truth, I went into a bar, had a few drinks, went home with this blonde, and I slept with her." "Let me see your hands," she demands. He shows his wife his powdery hands. "Damn liar, you were out bowling again." Trucker is hauling a load of bowling balls to New York. A truck driver is hauling a load of black bowling balls to New York. He sees two chimpanzees riding bicycles on the side of the road, so he stops to give them a lift. He doesn't have room in the cab, so he puts them and the bikes in the tractor trailer. While driving through a rural town, he is pulled over by the local police. The first officer asks, "Can I take a look in the back to see what you are hauling?" Of course, the trucker obliged, and the one officer walks to the back while his partner stays with the driver. After a few minutes, the first officer returns and says, "Get back in your truck and drive as far away from here as fast as possible." Both the trucker and the other officer are a little confused, but the trucker jumps in his cab and speeds off. Once gone, he looks at his partner and asks what on earth was in the back that got you so concerned. His partner replies, he was hauling a truckload of ape eggs and 2 of them had done hatched and stolen bicycles. A woman and her annoying nephew entered a lawn bowling contest. The sun was out. The grounds had been immaculately prepared, and every retiree within city limits had turned out for the event. Pearl had to admit that she was feeling better about the day, now that it had finally arrived. A few weeks ago, when her delinquent of a sister had foisted her awful son upon her and asked Pearl to enter the event, Pearl was not at all pleased. She had planned to do a wine tasting that weekend, and now she was stuck with her nephew in a lawn bowling tournament of all things. Perhaps that was why she didn't even feel the least bit chagrined when the announcer introduced their team as Pearl and the Knit. After a tough day of competition, they found themselves in the finals, and it was down to the wire. Throw after throw curling beautifully towards the target. Pearl couldn't help but admire the technique of the dreadful nephew. It was as if he was born for this. Pure focus. Never needing bathroom break and not even wearing a diaper, he was magnificent. With the game down to the final throw, things were looking grim. The opposing team had a veritable minefield of balls defending the target, and their ball was nestled so closely to the white that you couldn't have fit a string of floss between them. Knit stepped up to the line for the final throw. This was it. With a confident glance to the crowd and a flash of his denture-free teeth, Knit rolled the ball firmly down right-hand side. Pearl was sure it was too wide, that the day was lost. When against all odds the ball began its curl. It slid through the minefield like a pension check into a scammer's grasping hands, effortlessly. Smoothly it rolled. Somehow it curled right to the target and managed to be even closer than the opponent. The crowd roared. They tossed their hats. They shook their canes in the air. What an unlikely finale. Knit won. Pearl, too.